presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
We are dry right now in downtown Cincinnati and fully hope it'll stay that way for game 2 of this 3-game series after a wild one last night. The Cubs rallying in the 9th and winning in 11 by a run in town to take on the Cincinnati Reds. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. You turn the page from that tough loss last night, and it's very exciting that Cody Reed is going to have a chance to get his first start of the year.
Well, it is, Tommy. He's thrown the ball very well so far in 2017. Coming off kind of a rough rookie year, but big deal. I mean, pitching in the major leagues is one of those professions that, except for the very, very rare case, it takes experience. It takes some time out on the mound to figure out what you are all about. And I can tell you one thing about Cody Reed. This young man has an extremely high ceiling. His natural stuff is as good as anybody in the league. A fastball that moves all over the place. There you see a wicked slider. If he just calms down and keeps his delivery under control, he will have very good control, and that'll make him very tough.
Reds have gotten outstanding pitching these last 5 games, Chris, and it adds up to just 1 win.
Well, you're right. I mean, you got to score some runs, and you know the pitching staff is not about to look at the offense and say, hey, how about giving us a little breather out there? They're all in this together. They know that there's going to be games in which the score of the game overall is going to be low. There are going to be other games that are going to be slugfests. You don't really know what the energy of the particular game will be, but everybody's got to pull their own weight. And I think what you said in the very beginning of this open, Tom, turn the page. That's the most important thing this team could do right now.
All right, so on the mound for the Cubs, one of the best in all the business the last 3 years, and that's right-hander Jake Arrieta.
Jake Arrieta is a perfect example. We're going to show you a stat later on that compares Cody Reed and Jake Arrieta when they were 23 and 24 years old. Arrieta has matured now and blossomed into one of the best pitchers in all the major leagues. A little bit of an unusual delivery, but a power pitcher with a hard cutter and a really good breaking ball. This guy means business when he takes the mound.
All right, when we come back, we're going to check in with the main man covering Reds baseball down by the dugout. You know who we're talking about, Jim Day. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Hey guys, I know we had a little bit of rain at Great American Ballpark, at least during the second half of the game last night, hoping for some better rain chances today. Yeah, not so much. It's going to be mixed. I call it showers and not rain because the rain is going to be hit and miss. There's going to be plenty of dry periods in between. So if it starts raining, we'll certainly get a break soon. Temperatures, though, it's going to be the biggest change that we're going to feel. It's going to be pretty chilly. This is about 10 degrees below average with highs only around 55. Enjoy the game here on Fox Sports Ohio.
You know, many people say one of the marks of a good hitter is the ability to go opposite field. I know we are at a young part of the season, but it's fun so far to watch the growth of Eugenio Suarez at the plate. You want to talk about going opposite field. 84% of his hits this season are to center or right field. 16 of 19, 7 of them to right field. Compare that to last season, 63%. 34 to right field all of last season. So we have seen a very nice swing from the Reds' third baseman. And his numbers through 16 games are better. Last year, 274 average at this point, 345 right now. More doubles. Home runs are about the same. Multi-hit games. He's tied for third most in the National League through 16 games. And oh, by the way, he is much, much improved defensively as well at the hot corner. Suarez and the Reds, as Tom and Chris said, need to turn the page. Game 2 of 3. Tom and Chris are standing by with the call on Fox Sports Ohio.
Ultimate opportunity just to be here actually in the first place, but no, I thought I've done a pretty good job out of the pen so far, and you know, we've hit with the injury bug a little bit, so you know, I hate that that's my shot because of that, but I mean, just try to take advantage of every opportunity.
So here Cody Reed, after 8 innings out of the bullpen so far this year in 4 games. His first start, he made 10 starts a season ago. His numbers presented by Mazda, Chris, from last year.
Yeah, these numbers are forgettable. Really, if you're Cody Reed, you're thinking to yourself, I think that I'd kind of just rather forget those numbers right now and concentrate on what I've done so far in 2018 or 17, which is 8 innings of shutout baseball. He's got plenty of stuff, big enough arm, good breaking stuff. All he has to do is stay within himself.
All righty, here we go. The Middletown native Kyle Schwarber leading things off. Looks at ball 1. We're underway. Laz Diaz calls the balls and strikes. Doug Eddings at first, Corey Blazer at second, and it's Jeff Nelson down at third. We have talked about it so many times going back to last year. The first inning has been a real bugaboo for Cody Reed. And it's primarily been the lack of command. And here he starts the first batter of the game out 3-0.
You know, Tom, it's completely a mental thing, too. You're down in the bullpen, you're warming up, everything's nice and loose and easy, and all of a sudden the games begin. You hear the national anthem, the team takes the field, the umpire's now behind the plate, and now all of a sudden your heart races a little bit, and you're trying to tell yourself, calm down, take it easy, and it's just not as easy to do that sometimes when you're only 23 years old. But, you know, you got to stick with a guy like Reed. It takes a little bit of patience.
You may remember his first outing of the year came out of the bullpen. He worked 2 innings, but in each of his first 2 innings this season, he walked or hit the first 2 batters in each of those innings. Now, he didn't allow a hit, didn't allow any runs, and now he is all over the map. We're 5 pitches into the game, and he's been nowhere close to throwing a strike. And that wild pitch will advance a runner on to second base.
You know, one of the ideas to have Cody Reed pitch out of the bullpen was so that he wouldn't have the opportunity to think about an upcoming start and get himself too psyched up to the point where you almost get yourself psyched out. It's up to him now. Take a deep breath before every pitch and just do what you can do, which is throw the ball low in the zone and then let it go.
Chris Bryant, the batter. 15 out of 66 so far this year, and now that's 6 straight balls by Reed.
There's really not a whole lot that Barnhart can come out there and tell him. I mean, if Tucker has a good joke in his back pocket to kind of break the tension a little bit, that would be the time to bring it out. But I mean, look what he's done so far this year. He's got 8 no-hit innings. So you know it's in there somewhere.
In those 8 innings, he has struck out 8 and walked 4, and those were the 4 walks we talked about. His first outing of the year in each of the first 2 innings. It is 3-0. And now a strike on his 8th pitch of the game. 3-1 to Bryant. Schwarber at second base, nobody out. Reed at AAA Louisville last year had very good control. 73 innings. He walked 20. You'd like to see that number down a little bit, but in 47 innings with a major league club, he walked nearly that same number. 19 of them. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Reds and the Cubs play 19 times this year over 6 series. Chicago won 15 of the 19 last year. The 3rd most in Cubs franchise history. In 1945 they beat the Reds 21 times. And in 1914 they beat them 17 times. So it's been a long while. Three and 2 on Chris Bryant. Back-to-back walks to begin the game.
Well, Reed pitched 2 times against the Cubs last year. Really, it was early in his career. It was start number 3 and start number 4. And in each of those games, the Cubs scored 3 runs in the first inning. And in the second game, they scored 3 runs in the second inning as well. So let's hope that he's able just to kind of exercise the demons, and because he did make a couple of good pitches to Bryant right there, just missed on ball 4. Still no damage in the inning. You get a strikeout and a ground ball and you're out of the inning with no damage.
Anthony Rizzo waited until the 9th inning to extend his hitting streak to 10 games last night, and what a big hit it was. First pitch with 2 outs and 2 on in the 9th inning. His team down 3. And a line drive home run over the wall and right to tie it. The Cubs would eventually win it, beating Robert Stevenson in the 11th inning by a run. 1-0 to Rizzo. Fastball in there, strike. 2 home runs for Rizzo. He has 6 runs batted in. Well, there are a lot of hitters, really good hitters in this Cub lineup that are off to very slow starts. Schwarber, Bryant, Rizzo, even Russell. High fly ball into right field. Schebler over near the wall. Goodbye. 2 walks and a bomb to begin the game.
Well, trying to get the fastball in and out over the plate. As Michael Lorenzen found out last night, very dangerous spot to pitch Anthony Rizzo. Boy, that is just a super silky smooth swing by Rizzo, and launches it for a 3-run bomb.
Well, you can see the body language even before that pitch to Rizzo. After the walk to Bryant, we had that close-up shot out there on the mound of Reed, and you could see the wheels just spinning. And I mean, right now, he is on the borderline of reeling. 2-0 the count on Addison Russell. That is the first hit allowed this year by Cody Reed in 8+ innings. But all of those were out of the bullpen.
You know, Tom, it's interesting because if you go back a generation or two, the normal progression of a player out of the minor leagues into the starting rotation usually went through the bullpen. And you pitch out of the bullpen for a while until you get the hang of it, and they care less about extending a guy as far as the number of innings pitched and more about your mental adaptation of actually being in the major leagues. And that may be a case where Cody Reed needs a step between the minor leagues and the major league mound as a starter is that bullpen spot where you begin to feel comfortable. Maybe 8 innings isn't enough. Maybe he just had too long to think about the start and got himself too psyched up here in the first inning. Because when he throws the ball the way he can, he has shown us what he can do.
Pretty surprising they would award Contreras a timeout. Reed had already started into his windup.
Yeah, it's always up to the discretion of the umpire. But normally when a pitcher is already in his windup, you shouldn't allow it.
See Reed almost talking to himself out there. Looked like he was. Of course, it only get worrisome when you start answering back. Isn't that the old saying?
That was a Tommy Lasorda saying.
Two and one, and Contreras rips one into center field, a base hit. Let's take a look at the rest of the Chicago starting lineup under manager Joe Madden, presented by Menards. Hayward in the 6th spot on his way to the dish, and a ladder third of Baez, Arrieta the pitcher, and Almora Jr., who drew that 11th inning walk last night. If there's probably one at bat in that 11th inning Robert Stevenson wishes he had back, it was the Almora bat. When he got ahead of him 0-2 and wound up walking him, and Almora would score what proved to be the go-ahead and eventually the winning run. Hayward has a hit in 13 of the 15 games he's played this year, and in each of his last 8 starts. Got his first home run in the game here last night.
Got him.
They got him at second base. And that'll be the second out of the inning.
Well, he thought he could make it there. Oh boy, it looks like he may have got his arm in there. Did it come off? Contreras wants it. Yeah, he wants it to be looked at, and I think they're going to have a challenge right here, and we'll have our first little break of the first inning.
And maybe a much needed break here momentarily for the Reds left-hander Cody Reed. It looked like he will be ruled safe. Of course, I made it a point this year, Chris, to never speculate on this anymore. And now I've done it twice.
Oh, still early.
It is early. There's time to recover. Well, while they talk it over back in New York, let's take a look at the Reds defense presented by Ford. Schebler moving over into center field, an off day today for Billy Hamilton, and Scooter Gennett the nod in right. Regular infield, and Barnhart behind the plate with Cody Reed. And they have overturned the decision. The runner is safe at second base. So that'll be a wild pitch, allowing the runner to advance. 2 walks, 2 wild pitches so far in this inning, and a 3-run home run. Breaking ball in there to Hayward. The left-handed batter takes strike 1. So before the Reds ever come to the dish, it's a tall challenge facing Arrieta no matter when you see him. And now at the minimum, you come to bat in the bottom of the first inning with hopefully just a 3-run spread. Much like last night, a huge number of Chicago Cub fans here in attendance on this Saturday afternoon. That's way outside. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
If you notice that just about every pitch that Reed has missed out of the zone has been over on the third base side of home plate, kind of pulling the ball. And you can see as he follows through, he's kind of falling off with his upper body over towards the third base dugout. His alignment is very good. That's one thing you really like about Reed. He's not a pitcher that throws across his body. But you've got to keep your upper part of your body in line with your lower part. And that would be finishing more towards home plate. Keep staying behind the ball a little bit better.
Hit right on the screws, but right at Schebler in center, and that'll be the second out of the inning. So now Javier Baez, a number 7 hitter in the Chicago lineup. Baez had a good night here last night. Had 2 hits, a double, a solo home run, reached base 3 times, scored a run. But again, he's another one of many Cub hitters that we alluded to right from the beginning of the game that just aren't swinging the bat well yet. You figure each and every one of them will. I mean, you look at Schwarber, 240, Bryant, 220. Russell, 250.
You wonder, Tom, if some of that has to do with the weather of coming out of spring training, and they're going to go ahead and just put Baez on and come after Arrieta. You know, you're down in Arizona. This year was an unseasonably warm weather down there. Temperatures were in the mid-90s, it seemed like, for the last half of spring training. And you know, you're feeling good, and the balls are they're live down there. You're hitting it, they're going a long way. All of a sudden you come up here to the cold Midwest, and it's harder to hit. Plus you're facing major league pitching every inning of every game, rather than, you know, some AA guys that are coming in to fill some innings.
Not bad numbers for Arrieta. And Reed gets ahead of him in no balls and 2 strikes.
Oh, that pulled the string on him on the second pitch.
3 walks, 1 intentional, a pair of wild pitches, and a 3-run home run. 2 on and 2 out. And the ground ball in the hole at short. And they get the out at third on the force play. 8-bat-3 score. Reds bat bottom of the first, down 3-0. But with all the warnings about bad weather so far, real nice. It is chilly, but we're also very dry. Look at the Reds starting lineup today under manager Brian Price, presented by Menards. First game this year, Jose Peraza has led off. Scooter Gennett in the 2-hole, Joey Votto at first. Duvall, Suarez, Schebler the middle third. Cozart, Barnhart, Reed. Rounding out the latter third, Jake Arrieta has won his last 9 decisions in the month of April, going all the way back to April of 2015 and off to another big start.
Well, what a great career he's had already. He's only 31 years old, so they figure he's got plenty of good pitching left in him. 30 games over the 500 mark is Arrieta. 76 wins, 46 losses in his career, and earned an average of right around 3.5. So he's really the definition of a top of the staff rotation, an ace, a stopper, whatever you want to call him. And he's a guy that has loved pitching here at Great American Ballpark. In fact, it's 1 year and 1 day since Jake Arrieta spun up a no-hitter where the Cubs blistered the Reds 16-0 last April the 21st.
Yeah, so you put it in perspective, when he woke up 1 year ago today, he had a no-hitter. For him, it was his second no-hitter. He also no-hit the Los Angeles Dodgers back in August of 2015. He is the 3rd Cub pitcher to throw multiple no-hitters. Larry Corcoran going way back, and Kenny Holtzman. Most people remember Holtzman as an Oakland Athletic, especially those of us in Cincinnati. When Holtzman was pitching and hitting, you may remember, in that 1972 World Series. 2-0 the count on Jose Peraza. 14 out of 65. That's a .215 batting average for the Reds' everyday second baseman. And that's into the Cub dugout.
Hey, what? Chris Bryant wasn't getting a whole lot of help from anybody in that front row.
They're all jealous.
I guess once you get your feet up and in a nice relaxed position, it's hard to get that lazy boy back into an upright spot. It's like, hey, what are you doing over here? Need some sunflower seeds?
Two and two the count on Peraza. Arrieta won the Cy Young Award, you may remember, 2 years ago. He is one of only 8 pitchers in Major League history to throw a no-hitter in consecutive seasons. The last guy to do it. And it's interesting because when Tim Lincecum did it in 2013 and 2014, he was years removed from being the dominant pitcher who broke in with the Giants to start his career. And Peraza gets it started in a good way. Base hit center field.
Weighted back nicely on the breaking ball right there. Very good pitch for Arrieta. Is that breaking ball, he throws it any time in the count, but it can be against a right-hander. An excellent put-away pitch. And Peraza just kind of double clutches and gets enough on it to send it into center field.
And for the Reds, that has been quite rare of late over the last week, or at least their last 7 games. When leading off an inning, Reds hitters have an OPS of just 173 in 47 plate appearances. So they're having a hard time getting on base. But a good way to get it started for Peraza here in the first, who is 6 of 6 in stolen base attempts.
Dropping the OPS on me early, my partner. That away. If you're wondering if you can run on Arrieta, historically the answer is yes. 23 successful bags last year. Cubs catchers only threw out 3. 27 the year before that. But remember, Contreras is one of the strong arm catchers in this league, and he throws very well and very accurately. Small lead for Peraza.
Scooter Gennett, 9 hits in just 33 at bats, has 3 home runs and 10 runs batted in. Gennett has seen plenty of Arrieta through the years, having spent his entire career inside the National League Central Division.
I'm wondering if that's the best move that Arrieta has, and I think it probably is. It might not be enough to shorten up Peraza if Peraza really has his aim on taking stolen base here. Still not that big of a lead down there at first base.
Broken bat roller to second, and it's thrown into left field. Very sloppy play by Baez, who, after he missed the tag, tried to flip it in backhand fashion to the covering Addison Russell, and nowhere near the bag, and everybody safe at second and third.
Well, perfect timing from the Red standpoint right there, because Baez at first thought he was going to be able to just run forward, tag Peraza as he went by, and then be able to flip to first base. And then when he did decide to go to second, the ball went wild out of his hand. At that point, probably the prudent thing to do is to say, well, you know, let's get the sure one here at first base. You got a 3-run lead early on. Let's not let the inning get out of hand.
Now you got a chance to get right back in this thing. I mean, granted, we're only in the first inning and it's 3-0, but be nice to try and jump on Arrieta. You get a break, get a single to start it. Now an error by Baez, and here's Votto. Votto 13 hits, 62 at bats. He has 5 home runs and 9 runs batted in. He went 0 for 4 here last night. And this one ripped into right center, and we are tied in the first inning. That ball scalded off the bat of the Reds' first baseman to knot it up.
All night long last night, the Cubs pitched Votto down and away. This time, Arrieta's trying to go in there with a little slider, drop it on his back foot, but he leaves it right out over the plate. So now 2 first basemen have homered for 3-run bombs here early in this ball game.
And a nice play out there by that young man. Got a souvenir on a home run to boot. Still nobody out. And now Adam Duvall, the batter. Votto now 6 home runs, and that gives him 12 runs batted in, 1 short of the team high, which belongs to Adam Duvall. Well, what a great answer for the Reds here in the bottom of the first inning.
Really, and it was the Reds' big-time player to be able to come up and do that. I mean, Rizzo won it for him last night, basically with a 3-run home run to tie the game, to force extra innings. He hits a 3-run bomb here today, and then Votto answers.
Hey, by the way, it makes me think of something. Last night, I was talking to a buddy of mine driving back home, and he was watching the ball game last night. Big fan, like, you know, all of us are, the Reds' first baseman, Joey Votto. And when we got to talking last night about, you know, Chris Bryant and changing positions in third base and left field, and I brought up that example of years ago when there was talking maybe Votto being moved and Alonso going to first base, and he said to me, you weren't implying that Votto didn't want to make that move. And I said, no, not at all. I was implying that there were others, fans, media types, who thought you just don't do that kind of thing. Had nothing to do with Votto being a part of it.
Actually, I thought you were talking more about Yonder Alonso than you were talking about Votto.
Anyway, it just goes to show you how you can say the same thing and maybe you get 4 different interpretations of it. But I didn't want anybody else to think out there for a second that it had anything to do with Votto wanting to do it or not wanting to do it. He was never part of that equation. That's a strikeout by Duvall. And that's the first out here in the Reds' first inning. Let's take a look at the Cubbies on defense, presented by Ford. They'll go with the exact same group we saw here at every position as in the series opener last night. It's a good-looking everyday team. I mean, they've got potential all-stars. Hayward's been an all-star, although did not play like one last year. Bryant, Russell, Rizzo, maybe one day Schwarber, who knows, an all-star. The Eugenio Suarez, I'd bet you is going to be an all-star one day. On base 3 times last night, a single, a double, a run scored, also drew a walk. And that one's in the air to deep left field, and the Reds have the lead in the opening inning. It's the coldest day we've had in a long time, Chris. But there's a lot of big-time contact being made by both teams in the opening inning today.
There is, and it's interesting to see that Jake Arrieta is being beat right now on that breaking ball of his. He hangs this one for Suarez pretty much right there. Was out in the outer third, but high enough for Suarez just to kind of drop the bat head and watch it go.
How about that? I'd like to see you do that.
With you?
Yeah. We'll try that up here.
It may take us a little work, but
well, I got to get out of the boot before we try that twirling around on one foot.
Maybe that's the way you hurt your foot in the first place.
Yeah, it might be. Suarez, number 4 on the year. Now Schebler, 1 ball and 1 strike. Now, Chris, I want to see you do this. This is with Billy Hamilton. Right there. So they got 2 quick hand slaps. Then you get on 1 foot, you hold the hand in the air, and you sort of jump up and down. There's a little roller down the first, and that's all for Schebler and the second out of the inning. I am quite sure in about another 3 weeks you and I can do that.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe Billy Hamilton's available for some lessons. Or maybe Eugenio Suarez.
Well, maybe we'll catch him before the team plane after the game tomorrow. Get all boned up.
That would be, I guess, our own version of Dancing with the Non-Stars.
That's right, the not-so-star. The has-beens, the wannabe. Now Zach Cozart. Look at that. He had allowed 1 home run all of last year in the first inning, and today 2 of them. Although it should be said, Arrieta this year has now given up 5 home runs in his first 18 innings. Zach Cozart against starting pitchers so far this year is hitting .529. All right, now to put that in perspective against starting pitchers, the league average is .245. Cozart's mark is by far the best among all players in Major League Baseball. Isn't that interesting? The average player, or the average, is .245 hitters hit against starting pitching around baseball.
Well, I mean, all starting pitchers are at the beginning of the game, so Cozart comes ready to swing the bat early on. And he's really kept it simple this year. If you've watched Cozart throughout the years, you can see a dramatic difference in his setup. He now lays the bat on his shoulder rather than kind of twirling it off his back right shoulder ahead of time. He says it relaxes his shoulders and his hands a lot more. That's right there is what I'm talking about.
Cozart gone swinging, but the Reds come out swinging. They fell behind 3 runs in the top of the first inning. Votto said take that to tie it. Suarez take that, and a 1-run lead.
Storyline is brought to you by Elk & Elk, and we will compare both of these pitchers early in their careers, both of them in their early 20s at this point. First 10 games started by Jake Arrieta and Cody Reed, and you can see very interesting here, you know, the ERA very similar. So it just goes to show you have to be a little patient with young pitchers, because Arrieta certainly has turned himself into a brilliant major league pitcher. Always one of the guys on the short list for a potential Cy Young award at the end of the year, and you never really know. 8 years from now, where will Cody Reed be?
9-1-2 in the Chicago batting order. It starts with Almora Jr. and a bouncing ball down to third. Suarez will make the long, strong throw, and a nice start to this second inning for Reed.
That's a gift right there by Almora. I'm really surprised he doesn't have a little different game plan. When you have your starting pitcher in the first inning, walk two, give up a home run, and then walk a third one later in the inning. And you're going up there as a number 9 hitter, chasing the very first pitch that he throws. That is a thank you very much. You just made my Christmas card list.
Schwarber, for the second time, led off the game with a 4-pitch walk. Went to second on a wild pitch. And he jumps all over the first pitch and hooks it foul. Talked about it last night. Young man from Middletown, Ohio. Played at Middletown High School. I mean, he has already reached legendary status in the hearts of Cub fans. You know, he only played in the minor leagues for a year and a half. And then in 2015, they brought him up for 70 games. He only hit in the 240s. But his on-base percentage was up over 350. He'll take a walk. His minor league offensive numbers are just out of sight. I mean, but he reached, you know, legendary status because of what happened last year. First series of the year, he blows out his knee. And he doesn't play the entire rest of the season until the World Series. And they activated this young man, put him right in the lineup. Now, they had to use him as a DH. So he was only playing when the games were at Wrigley. But he had 7 hits in 17 at-bats, or when they were away from Wrigley, obviously being played in Cleveland. But he hit .412 during the World Series with an on-base percentage of .500. When you do that from that kind of injury in a lot of towns, but especially in the heartland of America, Chicago, I mean, that's a town that loves tough guys. They love the Dickas. They love the Urlachers. Those are the guys they love. And when Schwarber came back to play in that World Series, they liked the tough guys.
I mean, look at the way this guy's built. He ought to be playing right alongside Urlacher.
And Ditka. Or playing for Ditka.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a leadoff hitter who attacked the baseball the way that Schwarber does? I mean, he's up there to mash. Not up there trying to work the count. Not trying to drop a bunt down. I mean, they're giving him first base if you want it. Of course, with 2 strikes now, you would never take a bunt. But, I mean, the way the shift is, all he has to do is bunt a ball to the left side, and he's got an automatic free ride to first base. As a leadoff hitter, you never see that happen.
And look at this. He just punches this ball down the left field line, and it's out of play. That's very similar to the at-bat last night. And, you know, some might call it good hitting. Others might call it just an emergency swing when he had that double down the left field line in front of the Rizzo home run. The bottom line is it's a 2-strike hit.
Yeah, but, you know, it was the same swing he took right there. Today it goes into the stands foul. Last night it drops in the fair territory, and you don't control it once it hits the bat.
No. 3-2 the count. Strike 3 called. Good pitch there. Second strikeout by Cody Reed. First 2 retired in the inning.
He starts this off the plate and he freezes Schwarber with that hard breaking ball that he throws.
So now Bryant, who drew a walk as well in the first inning, and he, along with Schwarber, would score on the Rizzo 3-run home run. Hook foul. Slider in there, strike. So much more confident does Reed look here in the second inning. But that first inning thing is still something that they've got to figure out, because it's very much alive. Or at least when he starts.
Well, that first inning yips that he has is certainly not unusual. A lot of pitchers have had that, especially young pitchers, and there's no formula yet that has been developed to overcome that. A lot of times pitching coaches will have you throw more pitches in the bullpen or then sit down a little bit and then throw again. Pretty soon you'll try everything.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
Well, if you can get Reed straightened out, and you have Reed and Amir Garrett, 2 big, tall, strong, young left-handers in your rotation, you've got a pretty good foundation.
Saw him shake off Tucker twice.
That may be the changeup right there. Reed's best off-speed pitch is the slider. Then he does have a changeup, but it's more or less a pitch under construction.
Two and 2 on Bryant. So after getting ahead 0-2, there's been a lot of nibbling going on now. The count has gone full. Gone slider, changeup, slider, and missed with all 3. And that's why there's 52 pitches so far here for Reed, and we're not even through 2 innings. Hooked into left field on a breaking ball, and this will be a 2-base hit for Chris Bryant.
Well, that's a good swing by Bryant. You know, we mentioned yesterday how he makes a 6'5" frame seem like about 5'11". Well, the way he crunches down in his batter stance, but he gets his foot down in plenty of time and has the ability to get that bat right into the hitting zone.
Reds lead by a run, but the Cubs have a tying run in scoring position, and anytime Rizzo steps in the box, he's in scoring position. He is homered now in 2 of his last 3 at bats. The 3-run bomb in the 9th inning last night, and the 3-run home run an inning ago today, and it's 2-0.
If Cody Reed stays with his trend, I mean, he throws more sliders to left-handed batters than just about anybody out there, maybe this side of a left-handed relief specialist. 45% of the time he drops that slider on left-handed hitters. And I imagine against Rizzo now it's going to be 100% of the time, because he unjammed his fastball for a 3-run bomb his first time up. Probably afraid to go back to it. Even on a 3-0 count. You know, if Reed figures to be around the league for a while, this is the point at this time in his career. You got to be able to establish yourself to be able to pitch inside to Anthony Rizzo, because Rizzo is going to be around a while.
We invite you to follow Reds Baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat mobile app. Stay connected to the game's best players all season long. Download MLB.com at Bat today, your #1 app for live baseball. That was not even a challenge during that entire at bat.
Well,
not
yeah,
one.
From a game management standpoint, you had a base open, okay, but still, I really believe that Reed, I mean, here's a young kid that throws 95 miles an hour. You've got to be able to establish your fastball. Right now, he's intimidated by Anthony Rizzo. Even on a 3-0 pitch, he throws him a slider. I mean, when you're 6 feet 6 inches like Cody Reed and throw that hard, rear back and let it loose. And if you're going to miss, don't miss over the center of the plate.
Now both runners are going to advance on a wild pitch. Addison Russell struck out his first time up. Brian Price already pacing around in that dugout. I would imagine it won't be long before the Reds are going to get the bullpen started. This will be the 60th pitch of this game for Cody Reed. He has walked 4. Good biting slider there. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike. They ruled that, by the way, a pass ball on Tucker Barnhart. Looked like that ball actually never hit the dirt. It just popped out of Barnhart's glove.
You know, it's funny, the catchers don't get credit for making great blocks on balls that are bouncing 4 feet in front of home plate, or pitches that they snag just at the last second by diving at it. But boy, you have 1 ball go off your glove that didn't hit the dirt. That official score is all over you.
Reed came with a fastball, and it's on the inside corner, strike 2. So Reed trying to get through this 2nd inning, making it a scoreless inning. The Reds scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 1st to take this 1-run advantage. Another slider. 3-2. And there we talked about the Reds are not going to wait around. Mac Jenkins already on the phone to the bullpen. Reds have had outstanding starting pitching going back through the beginning of the Baltimore series. And there's ball 4. So they are loaded after retiring the first 2 in the inning. A double by Bryant and walks to Rizzo and Russell. Contreras coming up. Cody Reed had walked 4 batters in 8 innings as a reliever. He has walked 5 batters in an inning and 2/3 in this his first start of 2017. Into deep left center field, Schebler giving chase, and that is a grand slam. And the Cubs are back on top. It's a 7-4 ball game. There was a runner at second base in this inning with 2 outs. And the Cubs end up with 4 on 1 swing. Now Hayward, he lined out to the center fielder Schebler his first time up. 0-2. So for a second time early in this game, the Cubs have given Jake Arrieta a 3-run lead. 3-0 after a half inning. Bonilla, just called up from the minor leagues, has still not pitched since being brought up. That one fouled out of play, and he had been used as a starter a couple of times down at Louisville, so he has the arm strength to go for a while. And I would imagine that this is the last inning for Cody Reed. He's 2 pitches away from 70, and his spot is due up second in the bottom of this inning. We'll find out when we come back. Contreras a grand slam, and the Cubs lead 7-4.
Break brought to you by T-Mobile. What an outing for Corey Kluber last night. Complete game, 3-hitter, struck out 9. That's the 3rd complete game shutout in the bigs this season. Tyler Chatwood and Irvin Santana the other 2. Jose Bautista, 3-run home run in the 13th to lift the Blue Jays over the Angels. Former Red Matt Lato started that game for Toronto, gave up 4 earned runs in his 5 innings pitch in his first start of the season as Barnhart leads off with a single.
All righty, and now look at here. Making his major league debut. Number 1 pick by the Reds 4 years ago. Phillip Ervin. This is his big league debut. Oh boy, what he must be feeling inside right now. Ervin, 24 years young, from Alabama. Looks at a pitch down low. 2013, the 27th pick overall. First player drafted by Samford University, not Stanford, that's Samford University. And listed as the 18th best prospect in the Reds organization by Baseball America, a Southern League All-Star a season ago. Last year at Pensacola, hit 13 home runs. Had a low batting average, but a very good on base percentage. He will take a walk. Threw 65 of them last year. First swing as a big leaguer, and he fouls it off. So good for him. Ervin just brought up yesterday when Tony Cingrani was placed on the disabled list. 3 balls and a strike. It's one of the things the Reds really like about this guy is his eye at the plate. I mean, look at his batting average. It wasn't very good. It was in the 230s. But the on base percentage was up near 370. They swung at ball 4 right there.
Now he's got to be understandably a little bit nervous and maybe trying to do something too much right here on a 3-1 count, figuring he was going to get a fastball. That's what happens when you're down in the American Association or even down in the Southern League. You go 3-1 and you're getting a fastball on that 3-1 count.
He is the 7th Reds player this year already to make his major league debut. That is astounding. Poor throw by Arrieta to the covering Baez. They're still able to get the force out at second, 1 away. It's another thing Ervin can do really well, and that's run. He had 36 stolen bases last year playing at Double-A.
Well, that really shouldn't surprise you, because normally #1 draft picks can run, they can throw, they can hit for average, and they can hit for power. And that's the reason why they go in the first round. Ervin was 27th taken overall when the Reds drafted him. That was 2013.
And it's hooked into left field. And a real nice start to this one for Jose Peraza, who's been struggling along with some of his teammates. He's already a perfect 2 for 2 today.
Well, they moved him into the #1 spot by giving Billy Hamilton the day off, and he is keeping his head right on the baseball. Who would have thought here in this ball game, which would feature Jake Arrieta as one of the starting pitchers, that it would turn into the kind of offensive day that we've seen so far. Boy, Arrieta's just thrown a lot of pitches thigh high here this afternoon.
Chris Bosio is the Chicago Cubs pitching coach under manager Joe Matt.
You know, there was a little concern going into last year about Jake Arrieta because he threw so many innings in 2015, including the postseason. That number was up around 250 innings. He didn't throw nearly as many last year, but he was still went well over the 200 mark. And he's got the type of delivery that can strain your body. He throws across his body. He's tremendously strong, very dedicated to working out and keeping in shape. But I'm not saying it's early in the year where he's going to break down, but something's going on where he's keeping the ball up. Not very often he gives up a 4 spot in the first 2 innings.
Scooter Gennett reached on a fielder's choice and then would score on the Joey Votto home run in the first inning. 3 in the Chicago first, 4 in the Reds first, and then a grand slam by Contreras in the Chicago second. Reds are trying to answer, but Gennett behind 0-2. Broken bat roller down to third. Bryant will take the out at third, and that's it. So Votto will bat with 2 on and 2 out. IGS bringing the energy. Go back to the beginning of 2014, and that's when Arrieta's career got turned around after being traded the prior year from Baltimore. And look where he ranks in all of Major League Baseball: wins, winning percentage, shutouts, ERA, opponent's batting average. Spectacular numbers for Arrieta.
Cy Young Award in 2015, All-Star game last year, Silver Slugger last year.
And most important of all, won a World Series.
Now Votto hit a breaking ball his first time up. We'll see now if Arrieta is going to try to drop that breaking ball on him again.
Came with a fastball there. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Here's the pitch that Votto hit out, and it looked like Arrieta wanted that ball down and in and just left that out over the plate.
Another fastball, that one at 95 miles per hour, and it's ball 3. So a good hitter's count for Votto. Let's see what he gets to hit, if anything, on this 3-1 pitch. Duvall waits in the on-deck circle, and Arrieta struck him out his first time up. Looped into left field. It'll fall in, a base hit. Rounding third and scoring is Peraza. So Votto has knocked in 4 in the first 2 innings. And the Reds within a pair.
Votto works that count to 3-1. That's a pretty good pitch by Jake Arrieta, but a bad result for the Cubs pitcher as Votto's able to get it right off the end of the bat and drop it into left field.
So now Adam Duvall, he struck out swinging his first time up. You know, that goes back to what we were talking about last night, a little bit earlier today. And Chris, you made the point about Schwarber, and was it good hitting the double last night? He had a similar swing today on a ball that went foul. you know, the reason I would argue, yeah, there's no doubt about the luck part of it. I mean, that's indisputable in every single aspect of life, no matter what it is you do for a living. But in Votto's case, that pitch right there where the location was, most guys make an out on that pitch.
Yeah.
So
if he hit it better, it would have been an out.
Right. I mean, most guys, it's a guaranteed out on a pitch like that.
Well, I think, Tom, really more important is being able to put the ball in play.
Sure.
And Votto, we've seen extended bats as well as anybody in the major leagues. Fouls off when he gets 2 strikes, a lot of very tough pitches just to stay alive. I'm not sure that's exactly as it was drawn up on a 3-1 pitch.
No. Ball almost hit Duvall, and now he's in a 3-1 count. Arrieta has not walked a batter. The Reds do have 6 hits through an inning and 2/3 against him. It'd be a good time for number 7 right here and right now. Duvall waiting. Waves right through it. So now Scooter Gennett, the runner at second. Joey Votto, the runner at first, gets started on his 3-2 pitch. Outfield slightly playing Duvall to pull, and the same holds true along the Chicago infield. 3-2 delivery from Arrieta. Same result as the first time. But the Reds get 1 back. Could be a wild one here today. End of 2, 7-5 Chicago. Far away with the new Star Wars themed ticket package for as low as $30. You can get a Reds ticket and a limited edition Star Wars Storm Trooper. Limited quantities are available. You can buy the Star Wars themed ticket package today at Reds.com/Star Wars. Cody Reed has to be wondering what happened here today. 5 walks, 1 intentional. 2 wild pitches, 4 hits in 2 innings, and 7 earned runs. He had made 4 appearances out of the Reds bullpen this year. 8 innings, no hits, no runs, and had walked 4 batters.
Well, we give way to the new right-hander making his first appearance for the Reds since being recalled from Louisville, Lisaverto Bonilla. Bonilla's been around a little bit. As a minor leaguer, he was originally signed by The Rangers went to the Phillies, picked up by the Dodgers. The Pirates had him for a while, and that's where the Reds claimed him in February off waivers. The fact that he had kind of an inside shot to make this opening day roster.
Pretty wicked slider right there. He has pitched in the big leagues before, 5 games in 2014. That was the last time he pitched at the major league level, so it's taken him nearly 3 years to get back. And another venomous slider. And that takes care of Javier Baez to begin the Chicago 3rd inning.
It looks like he does a good job of hiding the baseball. It looks like the batter never really sees it until he gets it up in his release point. Turns his shoulders, tilts him a little bit. And got Baez chasing.
Another pitcher, Arrieta. Fastball at 94, low and away.
Here's a motion from behind. I'm not sure this really gives you the appreciation that you would normally have if you're in the batter's box. Really closes that front side and hides the baseball.
And he delivers strike 2 to Arrieta. So 1 ball and 2 strike count on the Chicago pitcher. 7 runs, 4 hits for the Cubs, the beneficiary of 5 walks. And all but one of those walks came around to score. Reds have out hit him 6-4. But the Cubs have outscored him 7-5, and that's back-to-back strikeouts for Bonilla in this his Cincinnati Reds debut. Fastball on the outside corner, 3-2 on Almora.
Well, he's gotten 2 strikeouts out of the first 2 batters with the slider. Let's see if he goes again with it. Wants a shake to it, it looks like.
Yep, shook off Barnhart twice. Came with a fastball and this time, 0-4. That is 6 walks for Reds pitching in the first 2 2/3 innings of this game. And now here we are in the 3rd inning, and the Cubs leadoff batter Kyle Schwarber comes to the plate for the 3rd time. Walked and scored in the first and was called out on strikes against Reed in the 2nd inning. That's when he thought maybe Cody was starting to get it together. He had the 3 walks, allowed 3 runs in the 1st inning, and then in the 2nd inning he retired Almora and Schwarber, first 2 batters. And then he got ahead of Chris Bryant, wound up giving up a double, a 5-pitch walk to Anthony Rizzo. He walked Addison Russell in front of the grand slam on the first pitch in the at-bat to Contreras.
Well, the Reds pitching staff last year was the wildest pitching staff in baseball. They had more walks than any other team. In fact, they had 200 more walks than the best two teams like the Giants. This year they're in the top two again, not including today. With today's performance, they'll be taking the lead.
And that's already the third wild pitch in this game. We've also had a pass ball.
So even only at this point in the season, the Reds are, more than 20 walks worse than the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Washington Nationals. And I guess a lot of that wildness comes with the fact that you've got a young pitching staff. I'm not sure who's going to wear out first. The pitchers from throwing so many pitches, or the catchers from trying to block so many balls.
Well, a lot of those walks have come from Brandon Finnegan in 2 of his starts. Second-year pitcher. Robert Stevenson in very limited duty, but he walked 6 batters in 1 game in less than 2 innings. And here you have Reed, who walks 5 in 2 innings. Of course, the Reds have 2 veterans in that starting rotation in Arroyo and Feldman. And Arroyo, admittedly, is still not pitching at nearly 100%. But you have Rookie Davis, who's walked 6. Finnegan's walked 9. Stevenson has walked 9. And now Reed has walked 9. That's a big chunk of your overall total number. Robert Stevenson, who came into the game in the 11th inning last night and wound up getting charged with the loss in a 6-5 win for Chicago.
Yeah, the one pitcher that really stands out as to having had good control so far this year has had the best run of it. That's Amir Garrett. Walked only 3 batters in 19 innings. And I guess going into the beginning of the season, you would have think, well, Garrett's probably the one at highest at risk of being wild. Not so. One of the reasons I think why Garrett's been able to throw the ball over the plate, he's kept his delivery very simple and repeatable. And that's one thing that Lisaverto Bonilla has got to figure he's going to have to figure out how to do, because right now that's a very complicated delivery.
It's a foul ball. Ball made by the home plate umpire Laz Diaz, as Suarez came charging in to make the play.
Remember, where it's not where the fielder is when he fields the baseball, not like in football where you can keep your feet in bounds while the ball is out of bounds. It's where the ball is relative to the foul line.
One ball and 2 strikes on Bryant, who has walked, scored, doubled, and scored. 2 on, 2 out, 2-2 on Chris Bryant. Struck him out to end the inning. So Bonilla makes his Reds debut, strikes out the side, walks a couple of batters, but the Cubs don't score, and the Reds trail 7-5. The Toyota sign during our game is rear knees. I hope that's right. From Cincinnati will win that Tundra. There you see it. And you can register for your chance to win. Just stop by your Cincinnati and/or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. Long day of baseball, it looks like here. We're only in the bottom of the 3rd inning. And a 7-5 Chicago lead. Cubs with 3 in the first, Reds with 4 in the first. Cubs get a grand slam by their catcher Wilson Contreras in the 2nd inning. Joey Votto knocked in his 4th run of the game with a single in the bottom of that inning. So for the first time in the top of the 3rd, it is a scoreless half inning. Base hit by Suarez into left field. The Reds have come out swinging against this all-star Jake Arrieta.
Well, Suarez had a couple of hits in last night's game, and you can just kind of feel him coming on, getting better and better, keeping that front shoulder in and staying on the baseball. Slides it right beneath the glove of Bryant at third base.
Well, here's a Reds center fielder today in Scott Schebler. Normally, of course, the Reds right fielder.
Yeah, Schebler right now is letting the speed of the game take control of him at the plate.
You know, he showed us the same thing kind of last year. Then they sent him down to minor leagues. He came back much more relaxed and had a good August and September. Right now, he's just trying to
Get his at bat over with as quickly as possible, it appears.
Well, it looks like he's trying to hit 2 or 3 home runs in every single at bat. I mean, I can't remember the last time the first pitch in an at bat, it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's a fastball, curveball, changeup, where Schebler did not come out of his shoes swinging the bat. And he's paid for it recently. He had that shattered bat single last night to snap an 0 for 17 streak. And he's behind Arrieta. No balls and 2 strikes here. Try to get him a chase, and he was able to lay off. Reds are really counting on Schebler to be a big part of their offense. There are a lot of people inside the Reds organization that think he's going to be a very good player, including his manager. mean, he used the words great and outstanding to describe what he believes Schebler will become. Those are big words.
Well, they are, and I think, again, you know, it's like having a young pitcher around. You have to have a little patience because the tools are there. He's very strong. He's athletic. He takes good routes in the outfield, has a nice arm. But most of the time when you see him at the plate here, he's getting himself out. And you can kind of see the way he's moving around there in the batter's box. He's a little bit of a nervous Jervis. You know, sometimes you just got to take a big chill pill and relax a little bit.
Well, Jay Bruce was a lot like that. Still is.
But Bruce always sped it up when he was going bad.
Popped up down the left field line, easy for Schwarber, and that's out number 1. Cozart struck out against Arrieta, ending the 4-run opening inning. But Cozart has been so good to begin this 2017 year, starting a lot like he did last year.
And actually, if you compare the styles, or at least the feeling at the energy at home plate with Schebler, Cozart is the exact opposite. Very calm and collected there, rests the bat on his shoulder. I mean, it's kind of waiting for Arrieta to bring the game to him rather than jumping at everything. Question still around Zach Cozart. What are the long-term plans for the Reds with regard to Cozart? Will he be here after the trade deadline? Will they sign him and make him part of the foundation of the rebuilding? Now 30 years old.
Runner goes, and it's served down the right field line. Great catch made by Hayward, and he will fire a strike for a double play. Bad luck for the Reds. And a great play by Hayward, who is among the very best and always has been as a defender. End of 3, 7-5, Chicago. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. Always send out a special hello to those watching out at Cincinnati Children's today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So you get a look along the Ohio River, just east of downtown Cincinnati. Beautiful views up there as you go through the neighborhoods of what East Walnut Hills and Eden Park, and rolling right on down all the way to Alt Park. Foul. Go right down Madison Avenue and you peel off some of those neighborhoods along Madison through O'Brienville and Hyde Park. It's a fly ball into right by Rizzo, and that's the first out here in the Chicago fourth inning. Bonilla trying to calm things down a little bit. He spun a scoreless third inning, making his Reds debut, just called up from Louisville yesterday. He did walk 2 batters after 2 were out, but struck out the side. And now retires Rizzo. Here's Addison Russell. Fastball up. What are your early impressions so far about Bonilla?
I think he's got he hides the ball well. He's got a great slider. It's a very complicated delivery, and sometimes that comes with a lot of deception. It often comes with the inability to repeat it over and over again, but he's working on a 1-2-3 inning here, just like he did in the first before he walked back-to-back hitters.
Here's Contreras. First pitch swinging as he did his last time up with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the second inning. When he clubbed a grand slam. Big Giants fan dialed into the game today, but he watches a lot of Reds baseball out in the Bay Area. They call him Benny the Bull. David Benzer watching the game today.
If he's a big Giants fan, I wonder how he feels this morning about reading more and more about the prognosis of Madison Bumgarner.
Well, I'll be interested to hear from him on that topic, because he has been a cameraman for the longtime Giants director Jim Lynch there in San Francisco, and been dialed in on both sides of town, both the Giants and the Oakland A's, as a camera guy out there for a long time. He beat cancer, thank God, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now. Been longer than that now, come to think of it, but watches a lot of baseball, and be interesting to really get the pulse of that whole city out there after what happened with their ace left-hander in a dirt bike accident. And they're not sure when or if Madison Bumgarner is coming back. And how about Bonilla? A 1-2-3 fourth inning. He has struck out 4, keeping his team right in the ballgame.
And this is Reds Autism Awareness Day. In fact, throughout the month of April, it's Autism Awareness Month throughout Major League Baseball. Pre-game on-field ceremony, very cool stuff. They had a game ball delivery and a play ball announcement. They also have group sale ticket purchases that support Autism Speaks and a designated quiet zone for fans with autism. This is one of the cool initiatives throughout Major League Baseball. Autism Speaks is dedicated to promoting solutions across the spectrum and throughout the lifespan for the needs of individuals with autism and their families. And we hope they're having just a great time at the ballpark today.
You better believe that, Jim Day, and we certainly welcome them and certainly stand with them. It's a very, very difficult situation to be in for a parent. I know a number of families that have children with autism, and I mean, you love them more than anything in the world naturally, but there are so many challenges. There's a 3-hopper down to third. 1 out in the inning as Barnhart starts things against Arrieta. Reds are trailing 7-5. Still very much in this game. And he had a starting pitcher that went for the Reds and Cody Reed that lasted all of 2 innings in this game, but Bonilla's done a nice job through his first 2 innings. And the Reds are only down a couple of runs.
Bonilla having a little fun in the batter's box right here.
Tell you what, he wasn't afraid to take a rip, a little bail and wail, and lifts one into right field.
I mean, he winds up and lets it go here.
That foot's coming towards you, though.
Well, he's trying to get the defense. Misdirection. You look to left and you hit the right.
He's got that same hairstyle, that same hairdo going on as a young man we saw. What was his name? Felipe Rivero in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Now, it's my understanding, I did not see Puerto Rico play during the World Baseball Classic, but I guess a number of the Puerto Rican players did the same thing to their hair, where they had that streak going and they dyed it blonde, that kind of thing.
It's kind of a team thing, but Bonilla is actually from Samana, Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I was going to say he's not a Puerto Rican.
Maybe just like the style.
Well, it's a good look. Now, Baez still has a little bit of that going on because he was on the Puerto Rican team, right?
Indeed, I'm not sure what he's doing out there, signaling. Having fun, though. Peralta's had a good day.
Also perfect 2 out of 2, a pair of singles, a pair of runs scored in this one. And that's all for Peraza and the Reds. A first perfect inning for Arrieta. Off to the 5th, a 2-run spread.
presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
And to 4, it's 7-5 Chicago. 7 runs, only 4 hits for the Cubbies and 4 left on base. Reds have 5 runs, 7 hits against Jake Arrieta. They've left a pair. Jason Hayward to lead things off against Bonilla, who's done an excellent job. His Reds debut, he struck out 4 batters. He's walked 2, not allowed a run or a hit. Falls behind Hayward, 2-0. Six series these two teams will play against one another. The Reds will be on their way to Chicago in the early part of May. That'll follow a 4-game weekend series for the Reds out in San Francisco. Be a 3-game set Tuesday, Wednesday nights, Thursday afternoon at Wrigley Field. And then the two will not see each other for a long, long time. Here's a 4-pitch walk to Hayward to begin the inning. They will play to open up the month of July, but it's only a 3-game series, so you consider they'll play 3 series from now until August, and then all of a sudden you got a 4-gamer at Wrigley, you got a 3-gamer here, 2 more series to go after that. So plenty of baseball between these two teams here in 2017 as National League Central Division rivals. Hayward 1 of 2 in stolen base attempts. He can still run. And Javier Baez a batter. When we saw Javier Baez in 2014, he was one of these highly touted prospects in the Cubs organization, along with Jorge Soler, who they used in the deal to acquire Wade Davis from Kansas City, and there were a couple of others. In 200+ at bats, Baez struck out 95 times after striking out 130 times that same year at AAA Iowa. And I'll tell you what, you'd have been hard pressed for anyone to believe that this guy would play as well as he did the following year offensively. He just looked overmatched, swinging at everything. Now, having said all that, there are a lot of people think this guy's going to be a star. There are a lot of people that believe you keep playing him long enough and you'll see the batting average begin to dip, a very, very low on base percentage, and still a huge number of strikeouts.
And also a little bit of power to go along with that.
Sure.
That comes from the big swing. And I'm not even sure that anybody in that Cubs organization has pulled him aside and said, hey, you know, we want you to cut your swing down and start taking those pitches to right field. And that just doesn't happen very much anymore. I mean, he's up there to wail away, and he's got tons of power. He hit the ball especially hard last night. Hit a home run after he hit a line drive double off the left field wall. I'm not so sure that you want to pitch out too often with a guy that has walked 3 batters in a little over a couple of innings. Bonilla hasn't shown the ability to throw the ball over the plate where he wants to yet. And if Baez gets a fastball here, he will be wheeling away. Good pitch.
2-2.
So, you know, I guess with a young player like Javier Baez, you take the bad with the good.
You think he's got tremendous power. When he centers up the baseball, it goes a long way. And if you play him enough, eventually he'll begin to, you know, shrink the strike zone a little bit, have more command of that strike zone.
He is gone swinging.
Nice slider.
I just think it's going to be interesting to watch the evolution of both Baez and Russell. Russell is a far more polished player than Baez. I think everybody agrees with that. Baez still appears to be quite raw. But, you know, when you dive in some of these numbers, you know, a guy like Russell, for example, he hit in the 230s last year. And his on-base percentage is right around .320. He's not a guy that's going to take a lot of walks. And he has struck out in his first 2 major league seasons 149 times one year, 135 times the next year. Now, getting back to what you pointed out again, do you like the power numbers from Russell? You love them. 21 home runs, knocked in 95 runs. I just think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of offensive players both of those guys eventually turn out to be. I don't know. Neither does anybody else. I think everyone would agree that if you had a chance to have one or the other or both, you'd take them both right now at 23 and 24 years old.
Yeah, I think so. And let's throw Jose Peraza into that comparison, the Red second baseman. Because he's very much like one of those guys, but he doesn't have the power, and he doesn't swing for the power. So he doesn't strike out as much, but he doesn't take any walks either. So one way or another, he's putting the ball in play, which is one extreme. You have Baez at the other extreme, who's either going for everything or going for nothing. But neither of them are going to have a high on-base percentage unless they have a high batting average.
Well, really, Addison Russell is the same as Baez in that regard, too. I mean, in actuality, you look through the career minor league numbers of Russell versus Baez. Russell is not nearly the hitter that Baez has been in the minor leagues from an average standpoint. Neither one of them in any way, shape, or form are on base percentage guys.
Right. But
just so happens Russell has a lot of thunder in that bat.
Yeah, and Russell he's just more polished.
Yeah.
He just gives you the impression at the plate that he's not as wild a swinger. But I think the Baez will get better. It's like having a hard-throwing wild pitcher on the mound. Eventually you hope that he's able to find the strike zone.
Runner goes and is chopped foul. So they start a runner with a pitcher at the plate on a 3-2 delivery. Hayward got a huge jump.
Innovative, out-of-the-box thinker, not afraid to experiment. Wearing sunglasses on a cloudy day. Why not?
This ball hit hard, driven into right field, and Schebler falls down in the warning track trying to make the grab. They're going to wave around Hayward. Throw will go to the plate, and that's an RBI triple by Jake Arrieta to make it an 8-5 game. And that is Jeanette out there. I beg your pardon.
Well, Jeanette was playing fairly shallow, and this ball was hit very well by Arrieta. Remember, he won the Silver Slugger Award last year as the best hitting pitcher in the National League. And by the time Jeanette recovers, the ball's over his head, bounces up against the wall, and so does he.
And in fairness to Jeanette, he has not been an outfielder. He has started one game in his career in the outfield before today. One. And that was in left field. Hot smash down to third. And Suarez will throw out Almora for the second out of the inning.
Still, you don't expect the pitcher to hit an opposite field ball up against the right field wall. Kind of like yesterday, I don't think that the Cubs expected And John Lester expected Tim Alderman to hit a ball up against the left center field wall and drive in 2 of the Reds' runs.
Ironic, that is the only hit that has been allowed by Bonilla in this game, and it's to the opposing pitcher after he ran the count full to 3-2, and Arrieta just figured, well, I'm going to get a fastball, we'll let her rip.
A leadoff walk came around to score.
So that's what, 8 walks now by Reds pitchers, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 have scored runs. 5 out of 8, and we are in the 5th inning. Kyle Schwarber has walked twice, straight up in the air. And Schebler will call off Scooter, and Scott will make the play to end the inning. A walk, a triple by Arrieta, and the Cubs lead stretches to 3.
I'm Jim Day. We like to ask those players questions off the beaten path. Today, who was your favorite athlete growing up?
That's pretty easy. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan.
Football, I'm a big time Peyton Manning fan.
Tim Tebow, for sure. Barry Bonds was always my favorite guy.
When Jeter started playing, he was my favorite, which is, you know, he's probably my all-time favorite after getting to play versus him. That was pretty cool.
Pudge Rodriguez, he was the best catcher growing up, and I always enjoyed watching him.
So there you go. A handful of favorite athletes growing up as we go off the beaten path, which we'll do throughout the season.
Great stuff, Jim Day. Really love it. How about you, Chris Welsh? Your favorite athlete growing up is
Pete Rose, Steve Carlton.
It's a good duo there. Real good. All right, Reds are down 3. Scooter Gennett to lead things off. Strike 1 will be followed by Joey Votto and then Adam Duvall. Let's see if the Reds can find a way to get close.
How about your favorite athlete? No, don't tap dance around it. Just give us a name.
No. My mind is not like a guy that's all that well known as a player. He's much more well known as a coach. But when I was a kid, remember the basketball coach George Karl?
Sure.
He was a point guard at the University of North Carolina, and when we were a kid, we'd go to a lot of North Carolina basketball games. And you know, he wasn't real tall, wasn't blessed with a ton of athleticism. He had this long hair like down to his shoulders, and the guy led the league in floor burns. Dove all over the place, scrappy, tough, good player. I loved him. Loved him. Jeanette serves one into center field, and that's the way it starts here in the Cincinnati 5th inning against Arrieta.
Well, the Reds certainly haven't made it easy on Arrieta, even though he has had 8 runs with which to work. Reds keep coming at him. He has had only one 1-2-3 inning. That was the last inning when he faced 8, 9, and 1 in the batting order.
Votto's had a real nice game. Right on the nose, but right at Almora. Showing a 3-run home run and an RBI single. It's the first time Arrieta's got him out today.
They're kind of even out, really. I mean, hitters won't agree to this, and pitchers probably won't even agree to it. But, you know, you hit it easy and the ball falls in the last at bat. You hit it hard right there and you're right at somebody.
Now the flip side of that is Duvall. He's had a very tough time with Arrieta today. 2 at-bats and a pair of strikeouts swinging. And breaking balls just started down and away from the Reds' right-handed batter, and he's come up empty.
Well, you can see why Arrieta is just so tough on right-handed hitters, because he throws across his body. He hides the ball very well. When he gets that breaking ball in a good part of the zone, it's very tough to do anything with. And as a right-hander, you have a tendency to just kind of pull out a little bit. I mean, Arrieta's delivery really, if you have a kid like this coming into the minor leagues, the temptation for an organization would be, we're going to straighten you out. We're going to start having you stride to where you're going to throw. But Arrieta's always been a guy across his body, and he's resisted any change, and he's just strong enough to be able to make it work. And his workout regimens are legendary.
You go back to the start of last year, and right-handed batters collectively a 192 batting average against Jake Arrieta. Quite a block right there by Contreras. Well, you know, you look at the Reds today, and you have Peraza, right-handed batter, has a couple of hits. Suarez, a right-handed batter, has 2 hits. So 4 of the 8 hits against Arrieta today, they've come from 2 players, but 4 hits batting right-handed. See if Duvall can add to that total on the 2-2. Nope, out away. That's the same pitch he's had Duvall out all 3 times. That pitch down and away from him, and that's 5 strikeouts now for Arrieta. 3 of them against Duvall. We know summertime's right around the corner, and that means we're getting close to Memorial Day weekend, and that means a memorial tournament presented by Nationwide, coming to beautiful Muirfield Village Golf Club outside Columbus, May the 29th through June the 4th. Order your badges now at memorialbadges.com. It's a breaking ball, strike 1.
You know, really, Jake Arrieta has a couple of different breaking balls. One of them's a very hard one. It's a cutter, and I call it more of a breaking ball than a fastball because he throws it into, you know, the 87, 88 range. Some guys are throwing their cutters much harder. Arrieta's fastball down a couple of ticks compared to years past, but still plenty enough to get it by you at 93. Then he's got that slow breaking ball, more of a slurvy curveball. That's the one that Votto hit out of the ballpark, and he was getting hit hard on. Suarez hit it out of the ballpark in the first inning.
Bottom falls out of that pitch, and that will retire the side. A leadoff single, then 3 in a row set down by Arrieta. Of every game right here on Fox Sports Ohio with Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow it'll be Bronson Arroyo. We'll get started early again tomorrow. 1:10 first pitch. Our Reds Live pregame gets underway at 12:30. Much better for Arroyo, Chris, his last time out.
Well, it's all about command for Bronson, and he was able to command the breaking ball a lot better. Can't say his arm strength is getting a little bit better too, but more and more it's being able to just kind of feel confident with his delivery, that he's not battling against his own mechanics to throw the ball where he wants to. But he's a guy that is just so honest in his interviews after the game, and he realizes that this is a rebuilding process for the Reds and doesn't want to get in the way of anybody else who may be getting an audition, and even said in the post-game interview, you know, if I need to end up going somewhere into the long relief role, then so be it. A refreshing player to be around, to say the least.
Bonilla beginning his 4th inning of work. He's allowed 1 hit and 1 run. He has struck out 5 and walked 3. Walked the leadoff man Hayward in the 5th inning, who then scored on the triple by Jake Arrieta and make it now 6 strikeouts for Bonilla. He's throwing the ball pretty well here today. Tell you one thing about Bonilla, at least you know, seeing him for the first time in a major league game today, and really hard to draw any kind of conclusions watching anybody pitch in Arizona or during spring training in general, but this young man is not afraid. I mean, he will challenge people with a fastball. That one lined into right, and that is up against the wall to Rizzo. I mean, you're going to give up hits on your fastball. Rizzo coming into second base. But we saw with Cody Reed earlier in the game, there were certain batters he wouldn't even throw a fastball.
Well, you know, one thing having Lisaberto Bonilla up here, and what did you say? This was the 8th different player making his Reds debut this year.
Right.
And it's so early in the season yet. I mean, we're still on the first couple of weeks into the season, it seems like. So it just goes to show you how many arms the Reds are going to have to sort through to figure out who's going to be on a 12-man pitching staff, or right now, you know, a 13-man pitching staff. I mean, it will be a revolving door, I think, all year long, because there are some pitchers down there that had very good springs that we saw that thought, hey, this guy's ready for the big leagues, who are not up here yet. There are some that are on the disabled list, going to come off that list.
It's a fair ball. Came right after Addison Russell right there again with a fastball, and gets the ground out for the 2nd out of the inning.
And of course, you're still waiting for Anthony DeSclafani and Homer Bailey to come off the list. So, I mean, there are a lot of arms to choose from. The question is, you know, who do you like? What role do you like them? And when it's all said and done, who's going to end up, you know, settling into those spots?
That's why if you're a young pitcher right now, the Reds are the organization to be with, because chances are more than likely you're going to get an opportunity. Now, for some guys, it's going to be a lot more opportunity than somebody else. You know, Cody Reed, high draft pick, came over in a Cueto trade. He's going to get a lot more chances than Bonilla, who they basically picked off the scrap heap. And that's probably the way it should be. But, you know, when you get your opportunity, no matter who you are, the bottom line is, right now, this young man in his first game as a Cincinnati Red is 1 out away from pitching 4 innings and allowing 1 run. And at the end of the day, you can talk about anything you want to talk about, mechanics, makeup. The only thing that matters is how many runs did you give up when you were in the game? That's all that matters. The rest of it is just eyewash. Are you getting people out and not allowing the other team to score runs? One ball and 2 strikes on Wilson Contreras. And that's in the dirt to even the count. And some guys are going to take longer than other guys. I mean, that's been the history really in any walk of life, in any occupation. Some people, it takes a little bit longer before they're comfortable in where they are and start to be productive. And everybody's different in that vein. That's where he threw him a 2-2 breaking ball and got away from him and hit Contreras.
Actually, a little lean-in action right there by Contreras. You know, the rule doesn't say that you have to try to get out of the way of the ball, but it does say that you're not allowed to move into it. Although you rarely, if ever, do you see that called.
All right, so now, much like the situation we talked about last night for Tim Adams. Remember in that 6th inning when the Cubs had 2 on with 2 out, and he had allowed only 2 runs in 5 2/3, and we said, okay, this is the batter where if you get him out, you walk off the mound feeling great about your outing. If you give up a double to knock in 2, you're shaking your head. It's probably the same story here for Bonilla right now. He's trying to get through 4 innings, allowing only 1 run if he can get this batter. You give up a 2-run double here, your team's in trouble, and your outing doesn't look so good. Hit foul, 1 ball and 2 strikes. And it doesn't look so good. 3-run home run. So just like that, that's how fast it can happen. And the Cubs have blown this thing wide open. It's 11-5 in the sixth.
Boy, you talk about unloading.
Hayward had not homered all year long until he got into Cincinnati. Hit a home run, his second at bat last night, and now number 2, a 3-run shot here in the 6th inning against Bonilla today. So 4 innings for Bonilla. If he can get 1 more out, and 1 run is turned into 4 innings with 1 more out and 3 runs. Make it 4. He gave up the run in the 5th, and now the 3-run home run in the 6th. That's a pitch he was trying to throw on that 2-strike count to Contreras. And that ball, as soon as it left his fingers, was headed straight for the batter, which kept the inning alive. Straight up in the air. That's the result he was looking for and didn't get it. So a 3-run home run by Hayward. And the Reds are trailing the Cubbies 11-5. It's Fridays at the old ballpark. Our next one's coming your way May the 5th. The Giants are in town, and you can be here for only $12. Have the big fireworks show brought to you by Yucatan Guacamole. For tickets, log on to Reds.com. Oh, guacamole dip sounds good right about now. You're a big guac guy, aren't you?
I am. The magic of avocados.
And what is the magic?
They go great on chips.
Yes, they do. You're right. I thought there was some deep spiritual
there
kind
might
of
be. I haven't discovered
meaning to that.
I can't get by the chip bowl.
Because if anybody would know that kind of thing, you know, some kind of old ancient lore sort of remedy to this or that or whatever it might be, you would be the guy that would be dialed in on that.
I probably once knew and then have simply forgotten.
Yeah.
Might not be good for the memory.
But you won't walk away from that chip ball if there's guac nearby. Reds are down 11-5. They bat against Arrieta. Reds have 8 hits, 5 runs, but all but one of the hits came. 2 of the hits came in the first 2 innings.
Arrieta this year has been especially good against left-handers. You would know it with the way that Votto's hit the ball today, but he has struck out 38% of the left-handers he's faced so far this year. That's a very high number. And he gets another one right here. That's second in the league, only behind Jacob deGrom, right around 40%. So if you compare that to the average major leaguer, that's about double the average major league strikeout rate against left-handed hitters. So just too bad that the Reds catch him on somewhat of an off day here, where he's given up 5 runs, but they're still looking at a 6-run deficit.
Ball 1 to Cozart, who was struck out and popped up. That pop-up is when they had Suarez at first and 1 out. Suarez was running on the pitch, and it was a brilliant play, a diving play made in right field by Hayward and turned into a double play. Well, he has always been a great defender out there in the outfield, whether it be with Atlanta, the 1 year in St. Louis, and now Chicago. Well, speaking of chips and guac, that turned out to be a topic of conversation with the manager Brian Price earlier today, did it not, Jim Day?
Yeah, he told your dad on the radio pregame show, and you might not want to do guac late night. Said he went home last night, ate an entire bag of chips with guacamole and had a beer, and couldn't get to sleep. Didn't get to sleep till 6 a.m. and only slept from 6 to 8. Says he won't do that again.
Tough duty when you lose games like that. You're the manager of the team.
Yeah.
Take a look at this. Now that's some engineering. Thing's almost like walking. Take a look at that.
Well, it's right in the batter's eye area, and maybe that's what tied up Zach Cozart. That is 5 of the last 7 batters faced by Arrieta that he has struck out,
including 4 in a row.
So, you know, Arrieta gets off to a horrible start, and this is where a champion pitcher like Jake Arrieta really separates himself from the crowd, because all of a sudden he's turning this into a game in which he's given up 5 runs. There's no way to sugarcoat that, but talk about getting it together and kind of making adjustments on the fly and putting zeros on the board like he has done since the 3rd inning.
Well, unfortunately, the balloons have been run down. Of course, and inside the golf zone with Jimmy Hanlon, presented by Varmint Guard, which tees off tomorrow night 8 p.m. on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. The day is over for Jake Arrieta, and as Chris mentioned, boy, did he really buckle things up after giving up 5 runs and 6 hits in the first 2 innings. He shut the Reds out over the next 4, allowing 2 hits and no runs. 4 of the 5 runs were earned runs against Arrieta. He strikes out 8. He doesn't hurt himself with a walk. He did not walk a single batter in the game today. Bonilla's going to get a chance for a 5th inning. He's gone 4, allowed 4, and all 4 have come in the last 2 frames. John Jay will pinch hit for Arrieta.
I'll tell you, I've always liked John Jay as a player. I thought that, you know, for year after year that he was having good seasons with the St. Louis Cardinals, and all that time they were trying to figure out a way to move him. Gets good jumps on the balls in the outfield. Not going to get very much playing time with the Cubs, but he's the kind of veteran player now that you call on in a pinch, and he can give you a good string of baseball.
Mora Jr. the batter. He's 0 for 2. Drew a walk back in the 3rd inning. This Cub team 2 games over the 500 mark. They've won 5 of their first 6 series. The only series they lost, they were swept 3 in a row by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ball lined hard. Jeanette got a nice jump on that ball. We mentioned tonight is the first day where he has ever started a game in right field. He's played a couple of innings in right this year. Started 1 game in left field. But right there got an excellent jump on that hard hit ball into right center field.
Well, there's not a lot of room in the infield right now. And with another player down in the minor leagues, Dilson Herrera, we have not given up an update on him in a while.
Well, we were looking at some of his numbers earlier today. He's only played in 10 games. He has a home run and 9 runs batted in, but offensively off to a very slow start. Don't know where he is with his shoulder at this point in time. That was been the problem really for a number of years now for Herrera, who came over in the Jay Bruce deal. Reds got him last year, sidelined a bit for his shoulder. Line drive in the left, that'll end the inning. Was knocking the cover off the ball in spring training this year, but he couldn't play the field because he couldn't throw. destination tomorrow. Thanks to Clauserman Bakery, you can get a half-price Reds ticket. Got lots going on for the kids. Mascot races, face painters, games, and a lot more. Kids 14 and younger get a Vado Fathead tomorrow, thanks to Panera Bread. So come on down to the ballpark tomorrow afternoon. 1:10 start. Cubs will go to their bullpen. We told you they hit for Arrieta a moment ago. Koji Uehara takes over on the mound.
Uehara has been around the big leagues for quite a long time, actually. Originally signed with the Baltimore Orioles as a major leaguer. That's where he started 12 games in 2009. He made his way to Texas. Last 4 seasons, he has been out of the bullpen with the Boston Red Sox. This year with the Cubs, 8 games, 9 now, including today. 5 innings or 6 innings overall. Has not given up a home run, earned run average of 2.7.
Patrick Kiblahan will bat for Bonilla, who goes 5 innings, allows 3 hits, 4 runs earned, struck out 6, walked 3. Kiblahan to be followed here in the Reds' 7th inning by Peraza and then Jeanette. Gone swinging is Patrick Kiblahan to open up the bottom of the 7th inning. There's 9 strikeouts for Cubs pitching in 6 1/3 innings today.
6 out of the last 9 have gone down via the strikeout.
Jose Peraza now the batter, 2 of 3. A couple of singles, 1 to center, 1 to left, and a couple of runs scored. No Loafin and Javier Baez there. He went after that foul ball full speed and then went full speed to come back in and get to his position, and now he trots out to make the play on Peraza, 2 away.
You know, you watch Baez play. We were talking about him at the plate, Tom, taking a big swings, trying to hit the ball in the ballpark seemingly every time he cuts it loose. But the guy just shows you that he loves being on the field. He's always smiling. He's interacting with his teammates. I mean, he brings a lot of energy.
You can play him virtually anywhere. He is a very, very important part of this Chicago Cubs team. That one laced into left center field off the bat of Scooter Gennett. And Scooter cruising into second base. He will stand up with a double. 2 hits today for Scooter Gennett and 4 at bats. It's only the 3rd hit in the last 38 at bats against the left-hander Uehara.
You see the action on Uehara's fastball really going down and away from Gennett, takes it the other way. Boy, he really likes to stroke that ball in the left field. That's where his first home run came here, as a Red into the seats in left field.
So now Votto, who had a 3-run home run in the 1st inning, So too did Anthony Rizzo, a 3-run home run in the first inning, and both of them batting in the number 3 spot. And it should be noted that that is just about as rare as it can get. You go back to 1900. Think about all the hundreds of thousands of Major League Baseball games that have been played since 1900. Today was just the second time since then that opposing number 3 hole hitters both hit 3-run home runs in the first inning.
Well, what about 3-hole hitters who hit 3-run home runs in their first, who are both playing first base, the 3rd position in the scoring?
Well, then that would be the first time it's ever happened, because if it's only happened one other time for players that play anyway, then this would be the first ever that they're both first basemen. So you've seen some baseball history here today. Brought to you by Honda. Both teams flexing their muscles early on. Rizzo, a 3-run home run in the first inning. Then in the bottom of the first, the Reds got a couple of home runs. Votto, the 3-run shot. Suarez gave him a brief lead. 2 batters later, clubbing a solo blast to left. But then Cody Reed still on the mound in the second inning, retired the first 2 batters. The next 3 reached, and then Contreras, a grand slam. The Cubs were up 7-5 until they added a run in the 5th and a 3-run home run by Hayward in the 6th. 11-5 the count, Chicago in front. 7 runs against Reed, 4 against Bonilla. And now on the pitch is right-hander Robert Stevenson.
Stevenson picked up the loss last night. He pitched an inning and gave up a run.
First pitch gets Bryant on a tapper down to third.
Stevenson, one of those guys who was vying for a starting position, starting pitcher job out of spring training. He ended up making the ball club on opening day, but as a bullpenner. I'd imagine, though, that at some point down the line he will end up getting a start or 2. At least that's what the plan was coming out of spring training. We talked to Dick Williams about that on the air during several of our spring training broadcasts. And there are a lot of guys that are going to get looks, Stevenson being one of them. You know, Stevenson, a lot like Cody Reed, I think, Tom, in as much as sometimes he lets the stage get to him. And maybe in the starting spot where you have time to think about it ahead of time and you can psych yourself up, and then to the point where you psych yourself out. And that's what I think we saw a little bit last year of Stevenson, maybe even a little bit in spring training, although he pitched the ball a few times up here very well last year. And you got to calm your nerves first, so let your arm work in a relaxed state.
1-2 on Anthony Rizzo. Fastball runs high and tight.
Oh, get a new bat. Got him on a breaking ball in there.
Three and two on Anthony Rizzo. Fouled out of play. Struck him out swinging. Came right after Rizzo there with a fastball. One-0 pitch. And 2-0 now on Addison Russell. Two down for Stevenson, working his first frame out of the bullpen. Reds are down 11-5, and it's 2-1 now on Russell. We like seeing Stevenson come after people with a fastball because he's got plenty of it. '96.
I mean, it's got action too. It's a fastball that is not straight. He hides it well, and it's got a lot of movement on it. But you still have to be able to place that ball where you want it. Oh. He's tightened up his curveball a little bit, Stevenson has. A little shorter break, a little harder overall, more velocity with it.
He allowed one hit and one run. The big batter was the walk in that inning last night, and he went around at strike three to Russell. That's a solid inning by Stevenson. Granted, it's a 6-run game, but he looks sharp. Ohio, brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Justin Grimm will take over for the Cubs. On this chilly day, boy, we have been so blessed, so fortunate here in the month of April. Normally, a lot of days in this part of the country during the month of April are a lot like this one today. You know, sort of raw, 50 degrees, wind chill feels even cooler than that. A lot of cloud cover. We've had so much sunshine and very, very warm temperatures by and large this entire month of April. And when the Reds leave on this upcoming road trip, they'll jump on the plane after the game tomorrow. They'll go to Milwaukee and then they'll make their way to Pittsburgh. We get back, and after some April showers, perhaps the May flowers, although many are already here. Pirates and the Giants will be a part of the next homestand and a 2-game stop for the New York Yankees.
It's a good homestand. Adam Duvall trying to do something here this afternoon. He's 0 for 3 facing Justin Grimm. Grimm came in last night, had kind of a rough 1/3 of an inning. Walked a couple of batters. They're trying to get him right back up on the saddle here this afternoon.
John Jay stays in the game to play left field. Out of there on strikes is Duvall, and for Adam, that's 4 advance and 4 strikeouts today. Eugenio Suarez, a solo home run, a single, is struck out. Tomorrow, John Lackey will start the game for Chicago, and he'll be opposed by Bronson Arroyo. We'll have it for you right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Pre-game at 12:30 with Reds Live, and our game coverage starts at 1 o'clock. Well, this Cub team has just absolutely owned the Reds. There was a long stretch where it was the other way. And you'll see this. It's kind of funny how these things go from time to time. And not always is it dictated upon, you know, a team putting together a quote-unquote powerhouse sort of team. But many believe the Cubs will ultimately be here in 2017. Sometimes you just have another team's number for a certain stretch of time. Remember the Houston Astros, they weren't very good when the Reds were getting killed by them, and then it swung the other way before the Astros moved over to the American League. Well, the Cubs over the last 3 years have just overwhelmed the Reds. Suarez puts a charge into one right center field, and he has his second home run of the game. My, oh my, that one went down the tunnel.
Got a couple of hits last night for Eugenio Suarez, a single and a double, and today a really good day with a home run the left of the first inning and now a home run opposite field here in the 8th.
Second career 2-homer game for Suarez. That gives him 5 home runs on the year.
Take a look at that. You see, that's one of the great reactions. I've often wondered what it looks like down a tunnel when a ball like that, I mean, you're just walking around, maybe just went to get something to drink, coming back from the restroom. Now take a look at this little kid. Let's freeze this. Right? Holy, I mean, look at this guy. And everybody else down there, they got a mouthful of hot dog down there or nachos. And all of a sudden, here comes this ball bouncing right through there. Little kid's in a dead sprint. I'll bet you he got it. He moves better than those other guys.
Oh, yeah, those old guys have no chance.
Last June against Colorado in Colorado, the only other 2-homer game in the very young career of Eugenio Suarez. I figure there'll be quite a few more of those to come. Two and one on Schebler, who's hitless in 3 at-bats and nowhere near the strike zone. Strike 3 called, and Schebler knew it. Looked at a fastball right down the middle of the plate. You know, everything the Cubs have done surrounding ending that 108-year World Series title drought has been done to absolute perfection. I mean, if there's an organization out there in baseball that certainly deserves an incredible tip of the cap for how they have handled everything, it would be Tom Ricketts and the ownership group of the Chicago Cubs. I mean, everything from, you know, the parade they had last year. You get a lot of help from the city and the police and the fire departments for all those kinds of things. But, you know, opening day, they raised a flag. We talked about it a number of weeks ago. They sought out to learn a great deal of information about a number of fans that they wanted on the field to give the players their World Series rings. There's a fly ball down the left field line, and that is gone. Or is it? Apparently not. Maybe the top of the wall. I'm not so sure. They might be talking about this. I think they're going to go ahead and take a look right away.
Yeah, they're not going to wait for a manager's challenge. I think they're just going to go ahead and
crew review. This looked like a home run.
Good idea. Yeah, it bounced off the guy's glove.
Hard to tell there. Let's see. I think it's off the top of that yellow line. I don't know. We got to see another view.
Well, that doesn't make it automatically a home run.
No, it doesn't. I think they got the call right. That looks like the yellow line to me. But they might have a better look at it than we do.
Oh, we had a review in the first inning. Only the second of the day.
But while they're looking at this, Chris, I just want to, you know, finish that train of thought about the Cubs and the way they've handled this whole thing. And even a tremendous amount of credit to their players. And what I mean by that is, a lot of fans may not know this, but there are a lot of people that are part of a traveling party of a baseball team. And there are a lot of people that work for a baseball team. And let's take, for example, the guys that work in a clubhouse. Now, Rick Stowe in the Reds case, Tom Hellman for the Cubs, who, by the way, is a local Cincinnati kid. They run the clubhouse, and then they have a number of other kids that work for them. A lot of times they're young guys, sometimes not so old, as you get another look at this play. And will it be a home run, or will it be a... Wondering if it hit that cement behind that yellow line. That would be very hard to be able to see it and tell. There it is, a piece of cement right there, and not the yellow padding. Hits the cement, it's a home run. Hits the yellow padding and comes back, it's not. But anyway, the players have a chance if the World Series share is, just say, $300,000. Every time you vote for another person to get a share, obviously that 300 starts to get diluted, right? Further and further down. Pot of money, you're going to split it up more ways. The players on this Cub team were the most generous of a World Series champion of any team that I have ever remembered. I happen to be around a team that won a World Series in Arizona. There were a lot of people you thought would get, you can vote them a full share, a half share, a quarter share, whatever you want to do. This team gave shares to people. I almost fell over when I heard about it. And that is an incredible testament to the players on their team and how generous they were after winning that World Series.
Any examples of the type of people who got
I'd
shares?
rather
from
say
the
no,
Cubs?
just because I think I wouldn't want to necessarily expose who they might be in their job. But
well, normally, that voting takes place not after the World Series is over, but sometime during the month of September, even before you clinch a pennant.
And it's a double, by the way. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Chris. Please go ahead.
So you're really not sure at the time you take the vote whether you're talking about voting in a second place share, or one and done in the playoffs, or you're talking about a full share from a winning World Series team. And there could be a big difference between the numbers involved in those.
And I want to give just somebody at home an example. One of the people who gets voted that World Series share, it might be somebody making $35,000 a year. And now all of a sudden they are handed a check for almost $400,000. I know one employee of the Cubs who was able to pay off both of his kids' college education loans and make a down payment on a new house for the guy's mother. It's life-changing stuff.
Yeah.
So good for them. Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. We'll be back in a minute. Here today, Reds batting in the 8th inning with 2 outs and 1 on, and they trail the Cubs 11-6 after the double by Cozart, who's still wondering about that ball in left field.
You know what I've noticed early on, Tom, from the review process is that we don't see as many overturned.
so far because they're trying to put that 2-minute limit on the review process. And I guess the thought is, I mean, if you can't make a decision in 2 minutes, then let's leave the call the way it is. So,
well, they didn't live up to the goal on that last call. That one taking 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Carl Edwards Jr. got his first major league win here last night. Threw the ball very, very well in the 10th inning. 1, 2, 3. Struck out 2 of the 3 batters.
He's been kind of a lucky charm for the Cubs. They are 6-1 in games in which he appears.
One of the batters he struck out last night, he is facing right now, Tucker Barnhart. And ahead 0-2.
Like his curveball, he's got a high release point and it comes right over the top. So when it breaks, it goes straight down and not really across the zone.
Inning over. We're off to the 9th. 11-6, Cubs in front.
The post-game edition is brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll take you into the clubhouse, extended highlights, and more, and it's coming up. Big story today, Miguel Cabrera, one of the stories, placed on the disabled list with a groin injury, but Justin Upton picking up the slack. Tigers visiting the Twins. Solo home run for Upton. And this broke a 2-2 tie. And right now it's a 3-2 lead for the Tigers. Not much early action in Major League Baseball today, but there's your big story so far.
Tigers have been playing very well. They have been. They were 8-4, but now they've lost 4 in a row. Cleveland was, you know, kind of win one, lose one, then fell a couple of games under 500. Now the Tribe has ripped off 4 straight wins, and they sit atop that American League Central Division. Straightaway center field by Contreras, and that is up against the wall.
Well, he loves swinging at that first pitch, doesn't he?
Sure does.
That's where that home run came. That grand slam home run in the second inning was on a first pitch that he saw from Cody Reed. And I mean, he wallops this one. Kid can run a little bit too. Boy, watching him go around first base. One of the more athletic catchers you're going to see.
Now Hayward. who hit a 3-run home run in the 6th inning. He's homered now in each of the first 2 games of this series. Strike 1. Stevenson worked a 1-2-3 8th inning. And now a double to lead off the ninth to Contreras. Will bring in a run, and that makes it 12-6 Chicago.
Now Hayward hit it hard. They're going to give him a base hit all the way as Peraza has to range to his left just to get to it.
Tell you, that hurt a little bit. That hit Peraza in the left wrist. Wild pitch will send Hayward on to second base. Swing and a miss by Baez, and that's all for him. Third time Javier Baez has struck out today, an 0 for 4 day for him. One on, one in, one out. And the batter is John Jay. Came on as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning and lined out to Adam Duvall.
You know, Tom, it's anecdotal when you look back and you say, gee, this guy always seems to do well against the Reds. So you back it up and you look it up, and sure enough, you know, Jay has one of his best numbers, overall career numbers against the Reds. Bats over 300 against the Reds. He's hit 6 home runs, 30 runs batted in, and it just seems like he always comes up with a big hit, or used to anyway, when he was, of course, with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Sure did.
Had a high on base percentage. And I never really felt that what we saw from John Jay was shared by maybe the decision makers in St. Louis.
I think you're right.
Seems like they're always looking for something a little better. If I'm not mistaken, one of those kids that came out of the University of Miami Hurricane baseball program.
Remember, they had Rasmus come to the major leagues, and they wanted to run him out there each and every day. And, you know, Jay made it through that whole kind of thing. And there have been others through the years. They went out and traded for Peter Borges. Remember the one year? And they thought that he'd be the guy. And it seemed like every time, by the time you arrived in October and the Cardinals would be playing in the postseason, John Jay would be the guy in the lineup.
Yeah.
Last 2 years, nearly a .400 batter with runners in scoring position. Fortunate to play on some very, very good St. Louis Cardinal teams for a number of years. See, here in a nutshell, you're getting a look at, and we saw it from Cody Reed today, even though Reed was walking a lot of batters. You know, the dilemma for Brian Price with so many of these young pitchers, and there are two veterans in the starting rotation in Arroyo and Feldman. But outside of those guys, whoever they're plugging into the other three slots, Amir Garrett has been great. But in those other two spots where there's been some rotation after Finnegan went down and Cody Reed got a shot, other guys will get a chance. We know that. Tim Adelman pitched the other night. But Stevenson's now thrown 32 pitches to get 4 outs. And in almost every single case with these young pitchers, and I know we're in a day and age where it seems like we talk too much about pitch counts. Now, whether or not you and I say agree with it or not is irrelevant, because all that matters is what the organization thinks about it. And they can't have these young pitchers, if you average it out to, say it's 40 pitches every 2 innings. You're not going to let guys go beyond 80 pitches in 4 innings of a game. So, boy, the chance is there for so many of these young guys to find their way in this Red starting rotation. Gone swinging is Jay.
Well, these opportunities don't last forever, though.
No,
I mean, eventually somebody's going to step up and close the deal. And that'll be one spot gone. When DeSclafani comes back, if healthy, that'll be one spot gone. When Homer Bailey comes back, hopefully healthy, that'll be another spot gone. So, you know, you take a shot at it while you get a chance.
I think you and I both agree, though, it's going to be quite some time before we see DeSclafani or Homer Bailey.
Yeah.
So
I think that last I read about Homer Bailey anyway, that he was ready to do some mound work here sometime maybe by the end of the month. So, I mean, that doesn't mean he's throwing bullpens. He's just getting up on the mound. So,
and DeSclafani's not even at that point.
Right.
So, I mean, you're looking, you know, by the time you're able to start building up, throwing off a mound, throwing breaking balls after that and not just fastballs, send you on a minor league rehab. You got to start building up pitch count and innings. I mean, you're minimum 8 weeks away probably on both of those guys. And think how many games the Reds are going to play over the next 2 months and how many chances these young pitchers, whether they be here now or whether they're pitching at AAA or for that matter even AA, because the way, say, the Castillo kid is pitching right now. I mean, why not him? If other guys are going to come up here and you give them 8, 10, 12, 14 starts and they don't show you, a lot of progress, like you said, find somebody who will.
Now, he's the kid that the Reds got in exchange for Dan Straley from
exactly
Miami
right.
Marlins. Yeah.
And a lot of
very impressive in spring training.
And very impressive so far this year in the minor leagues. Fly ball to center, and that'll end the inning. Cubs get a run. Reds will bat in the bottom of the ninth, trailing 12-6. will be in town. Arrive early and be one of the first 20,000 fans to receive a Star Wars t-shirt thanks to Kroger Home Team Brands. See your Reds take on the Giants Saturday, May the 6th for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Well, we saw the left-hander Brian Dunsing in the game last night. Look at that fella. He's still having a good time today. I don't know about Dad, but he's having fun. I mean, dabbing. Look, he got it going on. See that dab? Give it again. Come on. Now, oh, one more time. Come on. Says, Dad, you're not watching me dab. Dad said, I'm tired.
Are they still serving hot dogs, Dad?
I mean, that kid is over there having so much fun. Jack, what do you think about this kid over here? Well, he's having a good time, right? There's a swing and a miss by Kiblahan. He's out of there on strikes. Hey, Jack, get that kid to dab for us real quick. Come on, tell him we want to see one more dab. Let him know. Tell him he's on TV. Let's see this one more time. Come on. See, he doesn't know what to think about this. He has no idea what to think about what's going on here. See, now Dad's telling him, come on, dab for him one time. Kid's getting a little shy.
Why not?
I mean, he's been standing up dancing in front of the entire section for the last 3 innings. And now we throw him on a spot. And he's not going to dab for us. Oh, man, come on. Come on. To come back here to the mound. And the Reds are down to their final out. Oh, there he is. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, young man. You just made my night. Multiple dabs now. Look at Dad. Dad's grinding. I mean, grinding. It's been a long day.
I think he could do that all day.
Great stuff, though, father and son there. We assume father and son right there hanging out. Enjoying a day at the ballpark together. Doesn't get any better than that. Son or daughter. Alcantara bats for the first time. Arismendi, 1 hit in 14 at bats, has also drawn a walk. I mean, the Cubs got it going from the very first inning on. I mean, the Reds hung right there with them. You know, Cubs got 3 in the first. Reds came back, got 4 in the bottom of the first, but the Cubs get the grand slam by Contreras in the 2nd inning and never looked back. Added a single run in the 5th, 3-run home run by Hayward in the 6th. Another run in this 9th. And Arismendi with a base hit into center field.
Against his old team.
Now Votto, he had a 3-run home run in the 1st inning, a run-scoring single in the 2nd inning. 2 outs here in the 9th. And Dunsing with a strike on the outside corner. He did not face Votto here last night when he entered the game. 1-2 to Votto. Votto drives one to left, and that's out of the reach of John Jay. Coming in to score is Alcantara. Votto knocks in 5 runs in the game today. He had 9 RBIs through the first 17 games coming into play today, and a big day for Votto.
Well, you know, Joey Votto is the type of hitter, and there aren't all that many out there, that never gives an at-bat away. Here he is. Could be the 27th out for the Reds if he makes an out right there, but he hangs in there with 2 strikes, takes a left-hander opposite field. John Jay playing him way around towards the line, and that ball finds some space in the gap.
So now the batter, Adam Duvall. Strike 1. Duvall 4 at bats. He has struck out 4 times. And he has swung the bat 10 times today, and 7 of the 10 come up empty. 0-2. Votto will advance on a third. That pitch nearly hitting Duvall in the foot. This one hooked into left field. That'll be a base hit for Adam to drive in another run. Makes it a 12-8 ball game.
That gives him a little bit of a good taste to leave in his mouth after a rough day overall for Duvall. He was down 2 strikes, and Cubs wanted to see him strike out 5 times, but that was line drive produces a run. And Chris Bosio will sprint out to the mound to deliver a message.
What does the pitching coach say to a guy here in the 9th inning with 2 outs in a 4-run lead? Well, seriously, what do you say to a guy?
If you want any hot water when you get into the locker room, you better get out of this inning right now.
All right.
know what I'd like to see? A walking race between Mac Jenkins and Chris Bosio.
That'd be a good one.
Now, Bosio and Jenkins, of course, were in the minor leagues with the Reds at the same time. Bosio, a while back, was I think the Double-A pitching coach for the Reds. Good pitching coach. Mac Jenkins, too. But they got that pitching coach's stride. I mean, it's not just those two guys, but so many of them have that same pace. You know, if you've got a 30-second meeting, you know, according to the clock, and they use up a good 14, 15 seconds just getting out there. There's Boss.
Well, the amount of hours these coaches in this day and age in baseball, the amount of time they spend at the ballpark is numbing.
I mean, the duties that they have now compared to what they used to be is, you're right, it's over-encompassing.
Suarez, a check swing, did not go around. And it used to be, you know, for a long, long time, 7 o'clock games when you're on the road or at home, coaches would a lot of times get to the ballpark around 3 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock, 2:30. The guy wanted to take extra batting. Now, these guys are leaving the hotel at 11 o'clock in the morning.
We're coming back from the golf course and they're heading to the ballpark. We're on our way to lunch and a power nap.
That sums up your entire life on the road. God, I wish I had it that good. There was a ground ball to third to end the inning. And end the game. God, I want to grow up and be Chris Welch. All right, a tough one for the Reds here today. They fall by the final count of 12-8. One more to go tomorrow. They'll try and get a win. And let's head it downstairs to Jim Day.
Tom, thank you very much. A slugfest here at Great American Ballpark this afternoon. If you're just picking this up, we'll show you all the runs scored in this game. Reaction from the clubhouse, and always a party here in the Fox Sports Ohio condominium. Reds Live, the post-game edition, presented by Performance Kings Honda, is on deck.